Hi, and welcome to Synchronicity, talk radio for your mind, body, and soul. I'm your host, Marie Benard, and today we are speaking with Dr. Dravon James. She's the founder of Everyday Peace and the author of Freedom is Your Birthright. As a motivational speaker, Dravon's goal is to educate, empower, and inspire others to build the life of their dreams no matter what shows up in their lives, good, bad, or otherwise. And her journey began in poverty in the south side of Chicago. And though she'd always dreamt of a career on the stage, Dravon went on to earn a doctorate in pharmacy from Creighton University. She's worked as a pharmacist all of her adult life, but she's also a motivational speaker, and she is an author, and she's working in film and television. She's also a regular recurring role on HBO's The Wire, and she is in here to talk with us today about how freedom is our birthright and how we can feel more free in our lives. So welcome to the show, Dravon.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yay. And her website, Dr. Dravon's website is drdravonjames.com. So can you tell us a little bit more about your background? You started out living in poverty in Chicago, and so I would imagine that you didn't have a lot of opportunities like some of your peers in university had.
No, actually, I didn't. It was so funny when I'm from Chicago, and my mom had the wisdom to move from there. We moved to Massachusetts, so I got a great education in Massachusetts. But when I went away to college, was I amazed at how much opulence the rest of the world had. So no, I didn't have those opportunities, and what I didn't have in material possessions, and sometimes even physical safety, my mom made up for in belief and faith. So I was abundant in belief and faith.
Beautiful. So when you say belief and faith, do you mean belief and faith in yourself or in religion? What do you mean by that?
Well, really both, right? It's interesting is that I didn't think it was so much fun when I was a kid, but for most of my childhood, we went to two churches. We went to a holiness sort of church on Sundays, and we went to a metaphysical church on Saturdays. Two totally different worlds, most people would think, and one church never knew about the other church. So my mom kept it that way because I think she thought that the people in the metaphysical church wouldn't understand why she went to a holiness church, and the people in the holiness church would not approve of us going to a metaphysical church. What I got out of that experience, however, was how similar it was. The doctrine was taught differently, but it was very, very similar. And so I had this really strong belief in what people call God or universal life energy. It didn't matter to me. I just knew there was a source outside of myself. And then that created this huge amount of faith in what I could do. And my mom sort of cultivated that as we grew up. So we didn't have a lot of money. And sometimes, at one point in our childhood, or a few times, we were homeless. But I always believed, because of this upbringing and my mom's coaching, that I could do anything.
Beautifully said. And I imagine, Dravon, as you went on to go to university and to work in the pharmaceutical industry, that you got to see that even though you didn't have the same monetary opportunities as a lot of people, that you were very rich in having that background of someone believing in you and you believing in yourself.
Yes. And you know what I found out? And there's an old phrase my mom used to say, what doesn't kill you will make you stronger. And things that really stressed other people out and brought them to their knees, and they just couldn't go any further and made them give up. Well, because of the type of upbringing that I've been exposed to, I had a foundational belief in continuing and just seeing where the road went. There was no point in stopping. Sort of, once I got in there, and definitely there were times in college where it was extremely difficult academically, and it was extremely difficult financially. But I just felt like, well, I'm here now. And that was sort of my viewpoint. I'm here now. I'll do what I can do today, and we'll see what tomorrow brings.
And so how does that differ from a lot of the people that you work with? What do you notice they do instead?
Well, now at this level, I've been practicing for 29 years. And now I do see that. When I was younger, I didn't see that a lot of my peers that didn't finish school for whatever reason. There's no judgment or shame or condemnation. Our life takes different courses. So I saw a lot of that giving up then. Now, 29 years in to this wonderful profession, there is a lot of tenacity and sticking with it. I think we tend to stress a lot, believing that this one decision is the decision that will make and break everything. And that's so untrue. No, there is so untrue. What I've found in my journey and what I like to share with people is that there have been provisions made for every fork in the road. For every fork. There have been provisions made. So relax. Follow your gut, definitely, but let go of all of this angst about the absolute right way.
Thank you for saying that, Dravon, because I do feel, I've been dating recently again, and it's not just about the right decisions in your career. It seems like a lot of people, myself included, we get very focused on, if this date doesn't work out, then no one else is ever going to want me. If this relationship doesn't work out, if this job doesn't work out, and we just get so focused on making this one thing work and trying to force a decision or force it to be right.
Yes. And it's not just you, it's us as a people. We all, to some degree or another, deal with these control issues because we want to feel safe. And it's natural. We want to feel safe. We want to feel grounded. And so one way we can do that is to make ourselves, for lack of a better term right now, the God of everything, the God of this date. And so we put everything and we almost make ourselves physically ill trying to make this job work or trying to make ourselves fit into this group. Instead of saying, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to present my authentic self. And I'm going to know that no matter what happens on this date, even no matter what it looks like, no matter what it feels like, the universe has already made provisions for the outcome of this date. So if this date works, or if this job works, or if this, this purchasing this house works, great. If it doesn't, though, there's provisions made for that. I am provided for. And I got to tell you, that took a lot for me to get to that point. I can remember as a kid and hearing these principles, and they're, of course, said in different ways, but I can remember saying to myself the obvious questions that we must all ask ourselves is, if that were true, then why is it so hard? Why does it feel so bad? Those questions are real and relevant, and the answer is always the same. It's all in perspective. This part of the journey has come to bow down and serve me so that I can grow and develop from here. That's it.
Thanks, Dravon. Now, what do you say to people who maybe don't believe in a higher power, say that they're atheists? How can they use this information?
How can they use this information? It's really the same way, because you know what? I started off by saying that, it really didn't matter to me what people called it, whether they called it God or whether they called it the wind or whether they called it mother. That doesn't matter. What I would tell people is this: we don't need to know how electricity works to know that it works. We don't have to believe in electricity. We don't have to acknowledge it at all, right? We just know that light switch. If there's a light bulb in there, the light's going to come on. So if we just believe that tomorrow, if we see tomorrow, the sun will rise. That's it. We don't have to know what makes it rise, believe in the same energies, just that knowing. Because actually the knowing is more powerful than the belief. It's knowing that tomorrow there will be another day provided for me to do whatever. That's it. And we know that we don't provide the day, right? We're not staying up all night knitting the next sunrise. You know what I mean? And that's it. And that power right there. So it doesn't matter whether you choose to call that science, uh, whether you choose to call it God, or, like I said, Mother, Father, Earth, or it doesn't matter. Tomorrow the sun will rise. I know that. And I'm not going to stay up all night knitting it and creating a sunrise for anybody. So I know some energy, whatever you want to, and we'll leave it at that because we don't want to split hairs there because we could lose a lot of people on the journey for peace, argument, debate.
So yeah, let's talk about, what does everyday peace mean to you?
Oh, my goodness. It is, first of all, I'd like to share the definition of everyday peace. And it isn't my definition. I don't know where I got it from precisely, but I know I started studying what I now call peace at the age of 17, when my brother gave me a book by Vincent Peale, The Power of Positive Thinking. And that led me on this lifelong journey of what I call peace. And somewhere in there, I got this definition that peace is wholeness, completeness, nothing missing, nothing broken, totality. And I got to tell you, that resonated with me. Who doesn't want to be whole? Who doesn't want to be complete with nothing missing and nothing broken? And that means so much in the life of, I think, every person. We get up every day wishing for it, hoping for it, even if we've been so badly damaged that we don't want to utter the words. Everyone wants to have a life knowing that no matter what's going on, myself included, at the end of this event, I will be left whole, complete, with nothing missing and nothing broken. And when I say that and when I hear that fall on my own ears, it makes even the most challenging journey seem okay. It's comfort.
Thank you. We are speaking right now with Dr. Dravon James. She's the author of Freedom is Your Birthright and the founder of Everyday Peace. You could find her at drdravonjames.com. It's really powerful that you have that feeling of wholeness and that feeling of peace. And I think that a lot of people could say, oh, well, even though you had these challenges with poverty growing up, you came from a loving family, and a lot of people don't have that. But you have also experienced your own challenges. You had really big challenges in your marriage and multiple miscarriages. So can you tell us a little bit about some of the pain that you went through and how you overcame that?
Oh my gosh. Yes, I'll be happy to, because I know that one story could help someone else. And I want to go back to my childhood. There were loving moments, but I come from, my dad was not available, due to his own choices and with substances. So he was not there. And there were many, many abuses there. But my perspective is so important. What I chose to focus on over time, when you're in it and you're a child and you're growing up and you see so many painful things and you experience so many painful things, there is a tendency to focus on all of the bad and focus on all of the hurt because it's so intense. But as I grew in my study of peace, I decided, yes, these things, this is my whole story. This is what occurred. This is what I'm taking from that. This is my perspective. So I go on, when you're wounded and you enter into this adulthood and looking for someone to attach yourself to, as we often do. And I went through a period where my marriage, I've been married for 24 years. So, in 24 years, you're really going to you're going to change a few times in that time period. And there was huge amounts of dishonesty and deceit, conscious and unconscious, and hiding. Me hiding because when you're from a very challenging childhood, you have your own issues, right? And so I had my own issues, struggling with abandonment and loneliness, and then on top of that, the number of failed pregnancies and created an insecurity in myself, and which is why I attach so much to, I believe, peace, because I had been studying it for so many years, since age 17, and still was really driven. A lot of my decisions were fear-based decisions. And by that I meant I made a decision to avoid an undesirable outcome
Mm-hmm.
instead of making a decision that fueled me because of my passion. You know what that's like. So um, I did that for a number of years, even though I was still writing on peace and discovering peace and learning. And they say that we teach what we need to learn, what we need to learn about life. And I truly believe that was the case for me, because things were not smooth. They were not smooth externally, and I had not yet located the smooth spot, the safe spot inside of me. I I was still making fear-based decisions, and my external world reflected that. You know, I was generating, that was the energy that I was generating. And I can tell you, I have journals from age 17 to present where I was literally spend hours and hours and hours studying and researching peace. And I didn't even know what it was then. Back then, I really was looking for the answer to have no problems in my life. Right?
Yep. Been there. Been there.
Right.
If I could just get things to work perfectly, then everything would be okay.
Right. Yes. If I could just, and that was really what I started out searching for. And thank goodness when I didn't find, when I didn't find it, I didn't give up, because I thought, well, maybe that's not the answer. Maybe people have something else. Because I truly did look at the other side of life, meaning people came to what I consider to be stable home parents. They were not homeless. I truly looked at that side and said, there must be a secret to what they feel. They cannot feel what I feel, which is fear all the time. And you know what I found out in my journey? That most people, literally, whether they come from a lot or very little, they are riddled with fear, and they're making fear-based decisions. So in that, we're so much alike.
So you were breaking up a little bit. It sounds like you were saying that you were looking at people who had much bigger opportunities than you did, and you thought, well, there's no way that they can feel this fear all the time. But you've discovered that, I mean, this is part of the human condition.
Yes, part of the human condition. And with that, I realized that we're all alike in that way. And so maybe other people would benefit from hearing some strategies on how to deal with these fears that crop up in our lives.
Oh, yes, please. You know, I have to confess, Dravon, today that I've been having a really hard day and a hard weekend, and I almost canceled today's interview. But I took another look back at the email that your publicist had sent, and I thought, this is exactly the time to push myself to do this interview, because this is exactly what you're teaching.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you pushed through that, because that tends to happen, and we all go through that. I still go through that. And here is the beautiful thing about the universe. We'll call it universe and energy, is that what we need in that moment does appear. And it is when we push through. We started off talking about that in college and pushing through. And so just the fact that you said, you know what, I'm going to honor this interview and I'm going to push through, gets you to this place where we can be together and we can discover different ways of looking at things. So I'm honored that you did that.
Beautiful. Thank you. So we push through these things, and how do you talked about giving us some tips on how to find peace in our lives. So where would you like to start?
Yeah, let's talk about stress. And let's start at the beginning. Let's talk about fear, because fear is pervasive, and it's in every one of us, and it's lurking there, waiting, and it hides in so many forms. It hides itself as stress. It hides itself as anger. It can even hide itself as happiness. So really shining the light of awareness on fear is so important. And I will tell you that fear comes a lot from ourself being self-absorbed with self. It sounds odd, but we're very, very consumed with self survival. We're in survival, whatever it is, whether you're concerned about finance, reputation, relationship, and we become consumed, stuck there, and we truly believe that something can threaten a portion of us, we get into this fear state. We have fear over, I have two young adults, teenagers, and yesterday my daughter happened to be out late, and fear started creeping its way. She's in college, and I thought to myself, wow, what all of the dangers that are out there, and I immediately hurt myself, and I went back and I said, this is my fear of loss. What do I fear here? I feared that if something were to happen to my, I would lose something, this connection, this thing that relationship that I need, I've grown so attached to. And once I started addressing the fear and becoming aware of it, it's like it just started melting away like an ice cube because it doesn't want to be discovered, looking for these crevices to hide in. So I would first like to tell our listening audience, be on the lookout for fear ever so gently. Don't pursue it with vigor. Just watch where those thoughts come in that threaten our peace of mind. And we'll find that they're generally fear based, even if they seem like anger. Unpack them a little. Ask yourself, why am I angry? Why does this upset me so much? I spoke to someone who told me that they had a problem with being disrespected a lot. Everywhere they go, people were disrespecting them. And we just talked about it a little while. And it really was the point where they felt like when they were ran off the road that the person did that to them on purpose. See how irrational that sounds because the person in the other car doesn't even know you. But this fear of not being significant, being overlooked, not good enough. And as we start talking about that, it starts melting away. All we need to do is become aware of it and just watch it. We don't need to chase it down. We don't need to fight it. For goodness sake, we don't want to start fighting fear. We just want to be aware of it. And there's it's funny, I just did a radio interview for my station before I hopped on here, and I was saying that I use this mantra, if you will. Today, I took a break at work, and it's a particularly challenging day. And as I walked, I said to myself, I am enough. I have enough. I know enough. I am safe.
Hmm.
I am enough. I have enough. I know enough. I am safe. Now, that doesn't mean that there's no room for growth and development. That means that in that moment, while I was taking that walk, I was enough for that. And in the next moment, I was enough for that. It brought me back to awareness, and the fear just started to just melt away. So I'd like to start with that tip because fear is there always, and it is generally the thing that drives us to make decisions. I said I made a lot of fear-based decisions in my life that took me years and years to work my way out of, but I learned a lot about me. And that's what this whole journey is about. Because the more I can learn about me, the more authentically I can show up for somebody else. And they can learn something about themselves by an interaction. I learn more about myself and interact with other people. Start there with fear. And then I would like to talk about stress. That's the next big thing, right? Stress is the most plentiful resource on the planet Earth, right?
Yeah, if we could fuel it, we could use it as an energy source. That would solve a lot of problems.
Right, exactly. So it's there, it's not going away, and we got to figure out how to use it, right? It doesn't mean that it can't diminish. We can make different, as I evolved in my life, uh, certain stresses went away, but then there were other ones to replace them, right? That vacancy did not remain for long. But so we know that stress is an abundant supply. So how can we deal with stress? How can we use stress to transform and make more peace in our life? And that is, and we're going to have to because it's going to be there. And let me just say that all stress we know is not bad stress, right? We get stressed over planning a vacation, and that's a happy thing, but it can be stressful. Stressful about planning for a new baby or for a wedding. There are things that do bring up stress in our life that are not negative. So and I say that only to say that stress will be amongst us, as they say. So what do we do when we notice that we're stressed? And I think we become aware of that quicker than what we become aware of fear. Because stress is socially acceptable. It is socially acceptable to say, I am stressed. I am so stressed. I hear it a lot. You don't hear people say a lot, I am afraid. I'm so afraid I can hardly sit in my own skin. I'm so afraid. People don't say that a lot.
Hmm.
But stress we can connect to because have a higher awareness of it.
So it sounds like, Dravon, that you're saying that stress is a type of fear.
It is. But at the root of stress is fear. So stress grows out of fear. Fear that this event won't be perfect, right? Because makes the stress. So stress is there, but if we unpack stress and we dig a little deeper, we'll find that we want really get serious with ourselves and our self-work, because these are ready to face ourselves. We'll want to deal with the fear issue. But in the heat of it, we want to know, what do we do with the stress? The stress is showing up. And I want to give
Dravon, sorry, you're breaking up again. It sounds like you're saying you want to give 3 steps. Right now, we are speaking with Dr. Dravon James. She is the author of Freedom is Your Birthright. You can find her at dravonjames.com. And we were just talking about how stress actually stems from fear that things aren't going to work out the way that we want them to, fear that we're not going to get our needs met. And you were just about to tell us some easy steps to turn that stress into a peaceful moment.
Right. So, and I just want to reiterate, so you may not see the fear right away, but you'll feel the stress, and that's okay. We'll deal with that right there. So when you find yourself, I call it my 1, 2, 3. It's breathe, count, connect. Breathe, count, connect. So when you find yourself stressed, because usually when you realize it, you're in the thick of it, you're stressed. Slow down your breathing. Become aware of your breathing. Turn your attention inward and slow down your breathing. I usually do like a 4 to 6 count in, really slow. I hold for a few minutes, and then I'll do a 6 to 8 count out. This little rhythmic breathing, and the numbers don't matter. What matters is that you slow it down, hold for a few minutes, and let it out really nice and slow. So you don't have to do the counting, but the counting does help because the counting refocuses you inside, right? So that breathing, slowing the breathing down, what that does is it helps to reduce stress hormones in the body. When our stress hormones are elevated, we go into survival mode, right? In fighter mode. Flight or fight. And it reduces our ability to process information creatively or to see things from different perspectives. It even shuts down a certain amount of hearing, so we can only hear at a certain pitch level. We're not able to really hear our own internal voice speaking to us. So that breathing is very, very important. When you and there's all sorts of breathing that you can do, but I really like that one because you can do it with company. If you're in a work environment and you're not able to get off by yourself, that's a very silent breath, and it slows the breathing down, and it slows down the breathing. It reduces the cortisol levels and the stress hormones, and it increases creativity. So thereby, right then, you're able to see things differently. You become aware of more peaceful things in your surroundings, whether it's a lovely paint color on the wall or the feel of the carpet beneath your feet, the slickness of the computer keyboard that you're working on. You really increase your awareness to different pleasant stimulus in your area. So that works very, very well. I couple that with what I call counting what I am currently grateful for. Now, this can be difficult in the middle of a stressful situation. So I want to back up and tell you a technique that I do every morning of my life without fail is when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do before my feet hit the bed is the first 3 things that pop into my mind, I become grateful for. That's not as easy as it sounds because sometimes when I wake up in the morning, probably like other people, I'm not as happy as I should be, as I would like to be. But I accept that. I woke up this morning and I was aggravated about something my son had done the night before, my 16-year-old. So he popped in my mind and I said, I am so grateful for him. He's going to be an awesome man. And then I get the other two things and I jot them down. I keep index cards on my nightstand. I jot them down. I throw it in my bag for the day because I know that I'm going to face stress in some point of my day. I've lived long enough to know that stress is coming. Stress is coming. And I know that when I get in the middle of the stressful situation, just like everybody else, my cortisol levels start to rise. I can't think as clearly, even though I feel like I'm thinking as clearly, but I know that I'm not, because when I reach for something that I'm grateful for, sometimes I struggle in the middle of stressful because I'm so focused on the stress. So I don't do that anymore. I grab my handy little index card and I just count the 3 things on there, 1, 2, 3, and I read them and remind myself why I'm grateful for, my son and the other things that I had on my card this morning. So the breathing, the counting, at least 3 things that you're grateful for. Sometimes you'll find once you get those 3 things and once you've done your breathing, you can rattle off 10 things easily, right? The more you can do, the better. And then the third one is very, very important. Connecting with nature. How do you do that when you're sitting in an office that's windowless? That's my situation at work. I sit in an office that doesn't have any windows. So how do you connect with nature? I have a plant in my office that I have soil in it. So I spend a few moments just gazing at the soil and connecting with that, because that's something that puts me back in connection with an energy that's infinite.
I got to say, Dravon, you have a doctorate in pharmacy and you don't have windows in your office. What hope do the rest of us have?
Right? Well, you know what? And to that end, I laugh about that all the time. We can't connect ourselves to the external stuff because it'll disappoint us every time, right? I tell people that all the time. I said, who would have thought you get all this education? Right? But, disconnecting from any type of expectation from the external and then enjoying the journey. Because that's when we become malcontented when we start comparing ourselves. I have a friend who has a bachelor's degree in art and got, I think she told me, a $70,000 bonus one year.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, what? Right? In art, right? And so, but not to judge or to compare. These are the journeys that we've taken. And the great thing about this life that we live is that we can reset and take a different course anytime we want. It's just to be courageous to take the first step. We can do that anytime that we want. So, but those are my 3 things. I breathe, slowing down my breath. That has a physical effect on the body. Physically, it transforms cortisol levels, reducing cortisol levels, increasing our endorphins and our creativity. Then I count the things that I am grateful for. I already have 3 on a note card, easy to get the count started. And then I connect with nature. If you can get outside and you can walk, if you can put your feet, if it's a Saturday and you get stressed, because we get stressed on weekends too. If you can get outside in a wooded area and take your shoes off and put your feet in the soil and walk in the soil, Earth has two energies, right? Positive and negative. And so it's balanced and it helps to reground us. It's so important. That's so important. That right there will increase our peace in our life. That's what we want, that feeling of wholeness, completeness, nothing missing, nothing broken. And guess what? You will intuitively, organically be able to work your way out of the situation that you're in. It doesn't mean it's like magic going to go away instantaneously. What it means is that you will be moving towards your solution without even knowing it many times, without even knowing it. And even though the problem may still exist, the intensity for which you are fighting it reduces. Because what we fight, we bring more on. It's an attractor pattern. So if we stand up to fight something, we'll bring more of that energy. More energy lines up to fight because we're putting out that signal, that beacon to draw that in.
Thank you, Dravon. And it just goes back to you saying that you were choosing what to focus on, because you could, if you're spending your day in a windowless office, and we all know what that feels like at some point in our lives, if you focus on what you are missing, then it doesn't matter how great your life is, you're going to be focused on that. You're going to start to feel pretty crappy pretty quickly. But even people who are in the most difficult circumstances, the ones who find things to be grateful for tend overall to be happier, even than people living in the Western world with all of our conveniences.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Absolutely. I have a story in the book, on my book, Freedom is Your Birthright. I have a relative that had spent a long time in prison. And if you're talking about a place where you can not have windows and, not have freedom and still find things to be grateful for. And of course, he didn't start off that way. But at some point we were talking and his whole perspective had changed. And he had located within himself things to be grateful for because they're always there. They're always there. And then you hear about people who, we look at their life and sort of envy them because they seem to have everything, all of the money, the relationships, and they have a sparkling lifestyle. And yet they have a difficult time finding things to be grateful for. So it's a practice. I think it's difficult for both people. The grass is always greener on the other side, but both groups of people can struggle with gratitude. It takes a while. And I actually believe in active gratitude too, not just saying that, oh, I'm grateful for this, but I believe in making it a full body experience where you're feeling it from your toes to the crown of your head, and you're just getting excited and you have this huge smile on your face, and it is just riveting, because that is when the energy really comes and you start drawing more things to be grateful for. So that list that I make, I call it my active gratitude list.
Beautifully said. We are speaking right now with Dr. Dravon James. She's the author of Freedom is Your Birthright. She's the founder of Everyday Peace. You can find her at drdravonjames.com. Now, we've been talking about finding peace in the moments of stress. And a thought came up for me. I work in a very high stress industry. And I think that a lot of us do. I mean, there's so many challenges that humanity is facing right now. And it's really easy to get overwhelmed with everything that, it can feel really hopeless. No matter what we're doing, it feels sometimes like it's just never going to be enough to make a difference. So what do you have to say for the people who wake up in the morning and they are facing another day of nothing I do is enough?
Yes, I know that feeling. I work in one of those industries too. I say sometimes to myself that I'm going to work to shovel sand. It's because it's like shoveling sand on the beach. It doesn't matter. There'll always be more sand. And it can seem to be discouraging, especially if you are results oriented. And a part of my personality definitely is. I really do want to see results from the work. And I suppose many of us do want to see results from the work that we do. But what I would encourage people to get excited about the giving, not detach from the results, because the results aren't ours to orchestrate and to control. It is the giving. And we know that we've given our best. We've given our best. Let that be the fuel that excites us. Because I spent a lot of years in this place here too, looking for the results. I knew I'd given my best. And when I didn't get the results, or I didn't get the praise or the accolades or even the finished product, how about that? I'd love to at least have a finished product for you to take that off my desk and not bring it back, to check it off and put it on my done pile. And even if that doesn't happen for that, because I don't control that part, it's got to go through so many other hands and their opinions. Get excited about being able to show up in this place of chaos, if it's that, or this place where we just more and more, it's inhumane how much work it is there to be done. I'm showing up, and today I'm showing up like it were my first day. I'm enthusiastic about giving you the best that I have to give. And here's what I want to say about best, because that can be a little stressful. I want to unpack that for a moment. The best that you gave yesterday and the best that you can give today should not be compared. What you were a different person yesterday. You were hydrated differently. You may not have slept as well. Different things happened in your personal life. So you're going to give the best that you can today and not compare it to the best that you gave last year this time. Or, our best is transient. It moves like every other thing in life. And we give the best in this moment. Get excited about that. Celebrate yourself about that. And that will help to alleviate some of that doom and gloom that exists in a very, very busy and chaotic work environment.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I feel like if I could show up to work and just be present more of the moments of my day, I think that it would not only make a difference in my own mental and emotional health, but it would help other people just feel a little bit better.
It absolutely, you're spot on with that. You showing up and being present would help not only you, but the people who work around you. And I can tell you that for many years, I showed up and I was not present either in many, not just work, a lot of other environments. I didn't realize it at the time, but what I was doing was keeping myself safe. So it was part of my struggles with abandonment issues is that I would really hide. I'd come in and I'd travel somewhere, and before I knew it, it was lunchtime. I'd still be robotically working, but I wouldn't be present. And that kept me detached, right? That's not a way to live. We want to be all in. We'll be okay. We'll be safe. In fact, we'll be safer if we're all in than if we practice this detachment. That doesn't work. It's like burying someone when they're still alive, when we detach, because all of the stuff is still happening, but we're not consciously connecting so that we can positively impact the situation.
Now, do you have any tips on, because I know that this is a problem where I work and I get involved in it too, and I know it's a problem where a lot of other people work, is we'll get together and we'll all complain about how stupid it all is, how messed up the system is, how messed up our company is, or whatever. And how do you disengage from that behavior and that energy in a way that isn't invalidating for the people who still want to do it?
Oh my gosh. I talk about that in my book when I decided to go hardcore everyday peace. And I first say that there is no perfection, there's only progress. But one of the things that I really wanted to change was I wanted to change the conversations that I had, because I noticed that my energy changed when I engaged in certain conversations. I didn't feel as whole and complete and nothing missing, nothing broken. I actually did feel broken and fragmented. So I didn't enjoy that feeling, that internal feeling, as I became more aware of myself. And I say, socially awkward in the beginning because I didn't know what to say. These were people that I complained with, and that was our cheap bond, if you will, to a friendship.
Yeah.
We were bonding over complaining. Now, how I look back on that and say that how damaging that was, not only to me and unfair to them. So what I did was I had my friends were my friends, my associates were my associates, but I was quiet for a long time. And when I did speak in the social things, I always said something that I could see how we could see it that way. But what if? And that's how I began my transition to I will not engage in talking about things that I don't want more of in my life. So, but it was a slow transition. I was really awkward in the beginning. I didn't know what to say. I was really quiet, and people were like, "What's wrong with you?" I'm like, "Oh, nothing," you know. And then I figured, well, I don't want to invalidate my friends. I want them to know that I understand, because truly I did. A lot of the stuff we complain about uh, and talk about was that was our perception of how things were, and we of course are entitled to our opinion. So I would first say, "Oh yeah, I could see how we could see it that way, but what if?" And sometimes I didn't have a what if because it was so ridiculous with things we were complaining about. I mean, ridiculous in the fact that they were so obvious that, yes, This is what's going on. But I'd say, but what if we spend our time looking for another job? Or what if we spend our time on our lunch break or on our coffee breaks talking about things that would make us happy? Because we're not going to be able to change this situation. And eventually, some people I stopped eating with because I realized that that situation was not going to change. And I know that digestion of food and negative conversation is a recipe for health disorders. So some people I eventually said, okay, I'm not going to be with this group anymore because I can't do that. I will not do that negativity in eating. And the people that I kept engaged with, we eventually, because when you do that long enough, people feel comfortable and they feel like, wow, I feel better when she does that. And here's a test for that. Have you ever been somewhere and somebody walk up and their whole energy is calming and you want to be around that person?
Mm-hmm.
That's what this is. And then you've been in places where somebody walks up and you're like, not today. I
Yeah.
cannot do that energy today. And they haven't even said anything, but it's just the energy. So we can do that with our words and our presence too. People feel really energized when you eventually lovingly bring the conversation back to life. And that is breathing life into you, breathing life into them, and allowing us to, yes, accept what's there, but look at other things that we could do in this moment to make ourselves happy.
And it's interesting because while being validated, I mean, it's easy to kind of sugarcoat everything and put people down for focusing on the negative, and that does happen a lot when people get on the positive thinking bandwagon. They're like, oh no, I don't want to hear anything negative. That's not really that helpful either.
Not at all.
But it is so easy. It's so much easier for our brains to find something to complain about than it is to find something to celebrate. Even though there's more working in the world. Like you said, the sun, we don't have to knit the sunrise. It happens just miraculously each day, just given to us. And yet we focus on the fact that there's a cloud in the sky instead.
Right. Yeah. I always say that, I told my kids, I said, don't look for, when they were small, don't look for cheap ways to make friends. And the cheap ways to make friends is to create a bond that's built on something that's negative, complaining about your teacher or complaining about the homework or bullying another kid. So you're building a friendship based on almost hate. So how authentic is that friendship? You're bringing out the worst in that person, and they're bringing out the worst in you. And all you're allowing each other to do is to settle beneath your greatness. And friendship is meant to bring us to our greatness and beyond. And you're right. You can't attack someone and say, oh, I don't deal with negativity anymore, because that's a put down, and that in itself is negative, right? So that's why I said you always want to acknowledge and validate, use we statements, and then say, oh, what, and be very, very gentle and loving. And after a while, you'll organically, certain people will say, I really like to complain at lunch. They won't say it, but they'll show by not coming around. And other people will stay because they feel like, I really do want to feel better. I just don't want to complain. And I don't take the position that either person is wrong or right for them. They have their own journey of growth and development. I do say for my own growth and development that it is unhealthy for me to get that kind of feather in my cap where I'm on the complaining bandwagon, because now that drives my whole day into that direction, and I'll just gather more. It picks up steam like a boulder rolling downhill. I'll just gather more things to complain about, and that makes for a very, very sleepless night in my case.
That's like 80% of my work week. So yeah. I just had the thought while you were talking about how I can go into work tomorrow, and maybe, because that is how I connect with my coworkers. That's how we commiserate, rather than focusing on the multitude of things to complain about. I can look for things to appreciate in my coworkers and in my work environment.
Yeah. It's so funny because I remember one year, and I used to call it Payday Friday Smiles. And that was usually the only thing I could think was great about that job that I was working, was that they paid consistently every other Friday. And I would say that, and it became a running joke. Payday Friday Smiles. I was like, you know what? The best thing about this is that check is going to clear on Friday. And so that became a running joke, and it just gave, lift everybody's spirits. And then we could go on and laugh about what happened on TV last night or what the kids were doing, and just so that we could really digest our food better. And that's so important. And go back afterward on a high as opposed to a low.
I like that. Yeah, because I work for a company that the checks will clear too. So that's something we can all be thankful for, because not everyone has that.
Right. Oh my gosh. I remember when a friend of mine was in Greece, and they were getting checks, and they got the check, but there was no money to cash the checks.
No.
And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, if that ever happened here in the States, so yeah, the check is going to clear. And for that, I'm grateful. And I'm still here at this company because this is my plan for taking care of myself this week.
Mm. Oh, I am so glad I was going to call and cancel this interview. And because of what I knew we were going to be talking about, it was just the perfect opportunity to practice moving through this stress and using it as an opportunity to grow. And I'm not trying to give myself credit for that. I'm just saying that it was such a gift that I just gave myself to have this conversation with you today.
Oh, I'm so glad that it was. But I want to go back to a question that you asked me when you said, what do you say when you talk to atheists? Just what you just said. It doesn't matter how we got here. It doesn't matter who knitted the circumstances. All that matters is that you and I didn't know this was going to be the results. We just showed up. And there is an energy that does it. For whatever fork we take in the road, provisions will be made for us when we arrive.
That is so beautiful. Well, we have been speaking with Dr. Dravon James. You can find her at drdravonjames.com. The name of the book is Freedom is Your Birthright. So check out the book, check out the website. And Dravon, is there anything that you'd like to add before we close the show?
Just one thing. And I think it's my mantra that I really want to. It's not my mantra. I didn't make it up. I gathered these things along the way, and some of them stick, and they're really, really good. But I will tell people that when you're really, really stressed and you cannot think of anything else, and believe me, fear is at the base of that, trying to convince you that you are not enough. Remember to say, I am enough. I have enough. I know enough. I am safe. And you say that whether you believe it or not, and it will be true for you.
I am enough, I have enough, I know enough, and I'm safe.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you to Dr. Dravon James for being with us, and thank you for spending this hour with us. I hope that you found value in it. I know that I sure did. And so thank you for holding the space each week here on Synchronicity by being with us. I want to send you so much love. Be well. Namaste.